Hello everyone and welcome to our insightful investment notes for this informative episode. Today, we are excited to continue our journey with Y, who has truly returned to join us once again. The last time we met was indeed real, yes, but it occurred in a very distant place, and finally we are back together to chat face to face.
Yes, there's still jet lag. Have you completed work?
Do you have it now?
Yes, I messed up. Can't do it. I want to finish work quickly.
But the problem we face is that the stock market today is simply not cooperating with our expectations.
Stock market status?
The stock market has officially closed for the day. Let's take a moment to check the current market status and see how it wrapped up today. It has experienced a slight decline. Yes, it has dropped a little, which is somewhat reassuring given that this morning it actually fell nearly 6%. Now, the final closing index stands at 21,056, reflecting a decrease of 409 points from the previous day's figures. This fluctuation highlights the market's volatility and the ongoing economic conditions. I'm not entirely sure if this situation is connected to the current tariff issues we are facing.
Today, during lunch, while I was enjoying my meal, I received a notification alerting me to a news report indicating that tariffs could potentially increase by a staggering 245% on a wide range of products imported from China. This significant change could greatly impact consumers and businesses alike.
All good.
I see that they are proposing to impose a substantial maximum tariff of 245% on various products, including Chinese electric vehicles, as well as steel and aluminum imports. In response, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce has reacted firmly, asserting that China does not desire to engage in conflict, but it is also resolutely unafraid to defend its interests if necessary.
They stated they would ignore it. They stated they want peace. Last time he said if you impose tariffs again, I won't pay any attention. That's right, indeed.
He's now ignoring it completely.
Actually, he now wants to announce to everyone that he won't care about you.
Yes, but he actually cannot do much of significance. Of course, everyone can discuss more on the comment board about how you view tariffs and the impact of tariffs on China or possibly Hong Kong. Is it really significant? Everyone can freely share on the comment board. However, concerning our market performance, someone mentioned to me today that it appears to have reached its lowest point, indicating that there isn't much potential for an upward trend at the breakout point. This observation suggests we may need to reassess our expectations for recovery.
It seems to be hovering around the 21,000 mark, with fluctuations frequently occurring around that level. So what are your thoughts on our current market situation and outlook?
For now, I feel that the momentum in the market isn't strong enough to sustain a rally. We need to monitor closely and see if it can hold above the important 100-day moving average this week.
The 100-day moving average should be around 211, but what's the latest today?
It calculates the closing price.
Here, take a moment to observe the 100-day moving average. It closely resembles the 50-day average. Oh, I apologize for the confusion, or rather, let's refer back to the red line first. Alright, yes, I understand. We seem to have an overwhelming number of charts displayed, especially since this marks a significant high point in our analysis.
It's the market.
So looking at the 100-day moving average, is at 21,345, which has moved up slightly. The price of 21,345 cannot close above the 100-day moving average today, despite a slight increase. Well, we need to see if we can recover the 8-day moving average this week.
After all, it's the festive holiday season, so the market tends to be less active during this time. However, it still holds reference value, and the overall trend effectively reflects the index's movement and performance throughout this period.
Yes, the resistance at the gap is quite strong, as you mentioned. Additionally, the short-term moving averages are crossing below the long-term ones, indicating a potential trend reversal, which is part of the AB technical analysis. This situation reflects our current circumstances, where we are not only discussing the potential for upward movement in the index, but also contemplating whether it will establish a new downward trend that could influence future market behavior. The likelihood of that is rising. However, this is a medium to long-term trend. In the short term, the Hong Kong stock market is still following the US market. It closely follows the US market daily. If you watch the financial index and trade accordingly, you'll do better. In the past few days, one could find various opportunities within the market. However, under these complex circumstances, it is quite challenging to establish a clear and consistent trend. This difficulty arises primarily due to the current volatility in the US market and the ongoing news regarding tariffs, which are having a significant impact on stock prices and investor sentiment. As a result, navigating this environment requires careful consideration and analysis. For example, stocks such as Meta and Boeing are significantly influenced and affected by market trends.
Otherwise, the overall market has somewhat anticipated the potential impact of tariffs. I wouldn't say people are completely numb to it, but they certainly now expect it to be a factor in their decision making.
At this moment in time, no one anticipates a sudden and dramatic reversal in the complex dynamics of US-China relations. Furthermore, Donald Trump's position is primarily focused on targeting China, a nation that is steadfastly unwilling to concede or back down in the face of external pressures. Both countries appear set to maintain their current paths, indicating that any significant changes in their relationship are unlikely to occur in the near future, given the existing tensions and entrenched positions of each side.
He's open to negotiations with those who are genuinely willing to engage in meaningful discussions. These discussions show that there are many opinions in the market, with a few common understandings. First, when he acts irrationally. Second, when he seems foolish. And third, when he doesn't realize how strong China is.
So the fourth point to consider is that China has adopted a tough and determined stance, which is indeed the correct approach. It's not about evaluating whether this stance is right or wrong, or if Zhang Lujun is acting foolishly. That aspect is not significant. As investors, our primary focus should be on analyzing how much this tough stance will ultimately impact the market dynamics and investor sentiment.
That's right.
Considering it from this perspective, I believe a significant trend will eventually emerge and take shape.
However, despite some concerns, the US stock market's underlying fundamentals remain robust and resilient, leading many investors to feel hesitant about making significant withdrawals. Instead, they are likely to gradually shift their investments to other markets over time.
This situation limits its upward momentum significantly, but it isn't enough to fundamentally alter the overall index or the broader stock market.
Absolutely. You also mentioned that there could potentially be a downward trend in the index, correct? A very good morning to everyone here. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to ask, as I'm here to help.
I feel like living in Europe can be quite overwhelming and painful at times because when you wake up each morning, there's a substantial amount of challenges to deal with. And on top of that, you have to prepare for and engage in live broadcasts, which adds to the stress and demands of the day.
While conducting my research online, I discovered that several individuals pointed out that due to the significant volatility of the US stock market, it is anticipated that China is persistently engaged in selling off a portion of its holdings in US bonds. This trend may reflect broader economic strategies or responses to market fluctuations.
Really?
It appears that the request has been denied.
No, I later saw in the news that some of the bonds were indeed sold off unexpectedly.
But what do you honestly think about this situation? I'm genuinely just asking for your opinion.
Okay, haha, don't invest in stocks, right?
It's fine to invest in stocks. I'm not criticizing you.
Then I would like to ask, do you genuinely believe that if we assume they are indeed selling off their assets, or how else should we interpret this situation? Let's assume they claim it's not significant, but I believe it actually has a substantial impact on the overall market dynamics.
Please continue.
If I assume that they might need to sell off, yes.
Wouldn't that likely have a significant and far-reaching impact on the entire US stock market and the country overall?
To be completely honest, China purchases a substantial amount of US debt, and additionally, investors all around the world generally tend to buy US debt since it is often promoted as a low-risk investment product. Therefore, if such a situation were to actually materialize, what do you believe would be the significant economic implications resulting from it?
Or if they genuinely decide to sell off a significant portion of US debt, what potential consequences could we anticipate regarding the broader economy and financial markets? Well, interest rates will indeed rise in the near future, yes.
If there happens to be a significant sell-off in the market, it is likely that interest rates will increase as a consequence. Theoretically, once interest rates rise to a certain level, they may become appealing to investors again. However, what will be the immediate reaction of the US dollar in this scenario?
It will definitely weaken, right? Yes, it will weaken. If the US dollar weakens, what will happen to the Hong Kong dollar? It will also weaken alongside it, yes, because we are indeed pegged to it, right? If it's not pegged, then it will strengthen. The renminbi is expected to strengthen. Yes, the renminbi will strengthen.
First, does this initiative align with China's broader strategic interests? Second, is it truly what the Chinese government desires or envisions? Based on our observations and some logical inferences, I would confidently assert that a weaker renminbi currency aligns more closely with China's economic interests and is also the outcome that China wishes to witness. The reasoning behind this is quite straightforward and uncomplicated. Because exports account for a third of it, yes. So a significantly weaker currency would certainly be more advantageous for that particular country, correct?
This is fundamental economics. The first and second points illustrate that based on the midpoint rate, it is clear that China is aiming for a weaker yuan to boost its export competitiveness and stimulate economic growth. This observation also aligns with the well-known economic reality that a weaker currency tends to benefit exports by making goods cheaper for foreign buyers. You can clearly see that the midpoint exchange rate opened this morning at a low level not observed in over a year.
Certainly. Here's an expanded version of your text. Yes, there is a noticeable trend indicating that the midpoint rate, which is set by the People's Bank of China, is gradually decreasing. It's important to note that this midpoint rate cannot be set arbitrarily. It must be determined based on prevailing market prices and conditions.
However, it is clearly grounded in the lower end of the overall market price range. This indicates that they are showing a preference for decreasing the value of the yuan in order to achieve specific economic goals.
However, if you decide to sell off US bonds and weaken the dollar significantly, then the yuan becomes stronger, leading to challenges in controlling its value effectively.
Actually, if you do that, you are not being foolish. You also have to buy something back after selling US bonds.
What good is holding yuan?
What good is holding dollars?
You buy gold, that's it.
Gold is currently skyrocketing, and many central banks or Middle Eastern funds are buying it.
Yes, so it is often said that if you want to pursue this strategy in China, you are essentially selling an asset that is experiencing a decline or has significantly dropped in value. Simultaneously, you would be buying an asset that is being actively pushed to reach new record highs in the market.
Hey, do you think it's truly worth it for him to go through with that decision?
From an investor's perspective, we generally wouldn't consider taking such actions. The central bank operates with its own strategic agenda, which remains largely unknown to us, but the associated risks of proceeding in that manner are extremely high and could lead to significant negative consequences.
So, will he significantly sell off US treasuries? I don't know, but they are likely restructuring their portfolios, and I agree that there are significant opportunities. Many state-owned enterprises are doing this because their increasing concerns about the potential risks from the US are steadily growing. I can't say their confidence in the US is decreasing, but their worries are definitely increasing.
It's not just them. Many other countries around the globe are also expressing concern regarding the ongoing situation. Even everyday people in the United States are increasingly worried about the potential impacts on their own economy, particularly since the trade war commenced. For instance, CNBC has conducted various surveys indicating that the rise in tariffs poses a significant problem for consumers and businesses alike, creating uncertainty in the market.
The primary issue at hand is that there is a strong desire among some groups to bring manufacturing jobs back to the US. But I have come across numerous videos where many individuals express the opinion that this approach may not be an effective or practical solution to the broader economic challenges we face today.
No one wants to engage in labor-intensive work. The labor market is currently facing significant challenges as it simply lacks the necessary workforce. Most of the capable and skilled workers have unfortunately been driven away due to various factors. One could certainly say that this situation is concerning.
Yeah, exactly. They don't even need to do that.
Additionally, there was a comprehensive CNBC survey indicating that a significant number of American companies are unwilling to bring their production back to the US. Instead, they prefer to seek out and establish operations in regions that offer lower taxes and more favorable business conditions. Furthermore, a significant 61% of companies believe that shifting their operations back to the United States is less cost-effective compared to relocating to countries with lower tax rates, impacting their financial strategies. For example, they might choose to relocate to countries such as Cambodia or Vietnam, which offer favorable tax conditions. This report does not specify the exact locations of these lower tax areas, but it could potentially include places like India as well. However, establishing a reliable and efficient supply chain in these regions is not as straightforward as it may seem.
Right.
The supply chain requires a minimum of 3 years.
You can't just stay there. You have to get on the highway first.
How to enter the highway?
You need to carefully transport it to the designated portal, that's right.
Is your transportation system efficient? You have to consider that the Chinese supply chain is in fact one of the most advanced and sophisticated in the world, facilitating the flow of countless products from various industries. When discussing this topic, you might want to address critical elements such as the efficiency of transportation routes, the reliability and stability of the power supply, the availability of water resources, and the importance of fostering local cooperation. Additionally, it is crucial to remember that you need adequate land to successfully build factories and support manufacturing operations within this complex system.
Indeed, the transportation systems, along with the comprehensive tax policies, have consistently been remarkably efficient and well organized in China.
The main issue is that currently, the US is strategically focusing on exploiting your specific weaknesses by imposing tariffs that are designed to impact you negatively. However, on the other hand, we must not forget that the United States is in fact providing assistance to China during a crucial period, as China is currently undergoing a significant economic transformation. This transformation, if not managed properly, could potentially lead to serious social unrest within the country.
Yeah, that's precisely why I often say that in the past everyone was diligently working hard to earn money, and they simply didn't have the time to spend it on leisure or enjoyment. They were quietly accumulating wealth without drawing attention to themselves, earning a considerable amount that often went unnoticed by others.
Accumulating wealth steadily over time, achieving a comfortable middle-class lifestyle, learning to truly enjoy life's pleasures, savoring refreshing iced American coffee, and indulging in buying nicer things that bring joy and satisfaction. However, your expectations for wages have significantly increased, so your initial low-cost advantage will gradually weaken over time. It's still less expensive than beef in the US.
The US actually doesn't lack in various secondary industries, does it?
You definitely have some high-tech industries, but there are still many third-world countries in this world.
So your production lines are indeed moving out to different locations. But the problem is that some complex production lines aren't easy to relocate due to their intricate setup and specialized machinery. For example, moving Apple's high-tech production line to India poses significant challenges, but relocating lines for producing basic items like clothes and shoes is relatively straightforward and much simpler.
When you consider the large Japanese fast fashion company that is publicly traded in Hong Kong, it's worth pondering how many of the clothing items they produce are actually manufactured in China.
Last week, I brought up the fact that there aren't many options available. Just recently, a thoughtful friend gifted me a stylish polo shirt, and I realized it has a recognizable brand label because it was presented to me by that particular store known for its quality clothing. They generously gave me 2 items, a stylish polo shirt and a trendy pair of sunglasses.
Neither of them is actually made in China.
The polo shirt is made in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Many garment manufacturers and producers of higher quality textiles have indeed relocated their operations to Vietnam.
Yes.
This statement clearly indicates that the supply chain is undergoing significant changes, but it is important to note that it will not be shifting back to the US anytime soon.
Yeah, speaking of clothing items, you know what's truly ironic? Many people deliberately visit dollar stores just to explore and check out the various products and merchandise being sold there, often finding unexpected treasures at such low prices.
Did you see that news? Many products we use daily are commonly made in China, right?
Yes, indeed. Very few people are not. But let's not stretch the truth too far. In fact, we all know that each year, various items like Thanksgiving decorations, Christmas ornaments, Christmas trees, national flags, and New Year decorations are most likely manufactured in Wenzhou, wouldn't you agree? It's quite fascinating how much comes from there. However, the trend is gradually shifting to other countries, though the pace of change is not happening as quickly as one might hope. For instance, the caps from Major League Baseball are often sold at impressively high prices.
Oh, speaking of caps, I don't understand why they say the stickers are the most expensive. I always mess it up. Haha, the sticker is the most expensive and can't be removed.
Okay, that cap is produced by a reputable company that is publicly listed in Hong Kong, and they receive a substantial number of orders from various clients. Interestingly, their manufacturing facilities are located in Bangladesh. So those products are no longer manufactured in China, while the Made in China label still holds some significance. For the US, its importance is steadily diminishing over time. And actually, these things are interdependent. It's fair trade. Because now there are many discussions, especially in Chinese media, that love to say, without China, the US can't manage, you won't have Christmas. Yes, I completely understand you need to have a Christmas tree. Yes, but on the flip side, it's important to note that your business in China will also likely decrease.
Yes. But you just mentioned that business is decreasing. Ming also said many things are made in Vietnam. No, Southeast Asia. So it seems that your N-brand sneakers and stylish clothes have already become quite comparable to those found in Cambodia, haven't they? It appears that the ANF merchandise has already made its way over to that location.
However, you just brought up China, and interestingly, I recently came across some news indicating that their exports continue to grow despite the prevailing economic trends. For instance, our products remain relatively expensive, which is something we discussed earlier today. Even in the face of a market downturn, there is no cause for concern or fear regarding our position. This resilience in exports suggests a unique strength in their economy that might be worth examining further.
So I want to ask you, what gives them such confidence? Why are they so unafraid even when the market drops?
What gives them such confidence?
I can't find the right adjectives to describe it elegantly. Why are they so confident or so bold?
Besides using that specific word,
But we're talking about confidence, right?
Confidence is important, but it can sometimes seem negative, as if having too much confidence is viewed as a bad thing. Isn't having confidence a truly good thing for everyone?
Don't you think? I don't think so. It's somewhat like saying someone is confident, but these words can be quite tricky and nuanced. People often say, I'm proud of my son, but in reality, pride is considered a negative term in many contexts, so it doesn't feel right to say, I'm proud of my son. Instead, it might be better to express love or admiration for his achievements. You can say proud of him, but you cannot say, I am proud of my son. Because it's considered a negative adjective. So what should it be? It should definitely be proud, right? But now it seems like everyone around us is turning some originally negative situations into positive opportunities, which is quite strange and intriguing. Then YY remarked, where does this newfound confidence come from? He really wants to understand and express these thoughts more clearly.
We often discuss the concept of confidence, but it's important to remember that this isn't merely a figure. It signifies that there are indeed valid reasons to feel confident. For instance, during the first season of trade, the overall trade value of goods exported from China reached an impressive 10.3 trillion yuan, showcasing the strength and vitality of their economy in the global market. This indicates a year-on-year growth of 1.3%, which is a positive trend. Now, let me take a moment to investigate and determine the specific areas where this growth rate is occurring. For instance, in terms of regional distribution across China, we have notable provinces and cities such as Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Shanghai, Beijing, Shandong, and Fujian, among others. Fujian in particular stands out as a significant and major export hub, playing a crucial role in international trade.
The total exports of sports goods all come from Fujian, including shoes and clothing, totaling 7.78 trillion yuan, which accounts for 3/4 of the national total. It's quite impressive.
Furthermore, China's exports to over 170 countries and regions have also increased. For example, the total trade with the EU reached 1.3 trillion yuan, with a year-on-year increase of 1.4%. As we all know, the US-China relations have some tariff impacts.
However, the issue with the European Union doesn't seem particularly significant at the moment, as there has been a notable increase in the adoption and sales of electric vehicles across various member countries. Additionally, we often talk about the Belt and Road Initiative and the countries and alliances involved.
These friends collectively account for a significant total of 5.26 trillion yuan, which has notably increased their share of China's foreign trade to over half. That figure stands at an impressive 51.1%. Additionally, trade between China and ASEAN reached a substantial 1.71 trillion yuan, firmly establishing ASEAN as China's largest trading partner. Moreover, concerning the product structure, exports originating from the manufacturing sector have also experienced a notable 7.6% growth.
Double important.
Yes, and exports of several independent brands have significantly increased by 10.2%, particularly within the rapidly growing new energy sector.
For instance, various renewable energy technologies such as wind turbines, lithium batteries, and electric vehicles have all experienced remarkable growth, approximately 18.8%.
Wind turbines are impressive. You can see that the efficiency of Chinese wind turbines in Europe is very high.
Absolutely. The Netherlands is well known for its wind turbines, and while I was joking earlier, they indeed have a significant number of wind power generators, contributing greatly to renewable energy.
There are numerous flowers blooming along the roadside. I want to inquire about those magnificent machines that continuously turn and turn, not the iconic windmills or picturesque water wheels we often observe in classic movies.
Some wind turbines can be found on the scenic mountains of Lama Island, where a diverse range of turbine types is installed, showcasing various designs and technologies for harnessing wind energy effectively. This picturesque setting highlights the area's commitment to renewable energy sources.
If that's indeed the situation, then at 10 o'clock you will be able to articulate your thoughts clearly, and they are actively attempting to transition their previous trade partners over to the European Union. However, we must exercise caution, as it is important to remember that the European Union is also in the process of tightening its regulations. This shift in policy could have significant implications for various industries and stakeholders. Therefore, staying informed and adapting to these changes will be crucial for navigating the evolving landscape successfully.
Do you recall that news story from a few days ago, or perhaps it was 2 weeks ago, regarding the European Union potentially considering the implementation of restrictions on the minimum price for electric vehicles manufactured in China?
But is it because they are worried about the US imposing more taxes?
Indeed, they are not required to confront China in the same manner that you do, nor must they impose tariffs on China as you have chosen to do.
Largest country in the EU?
Germany. What is Germany's most important industry?
Automobiles. Yes, their electric vehicle industry is currently in a very dire and troubling state.
Yes, everyone is competing fiercely.
Fujian appears to have significantly overlooked the vast Chinese market potential. Remarkably, Fujian is one of the first foreign car manufacturers to enter the burgeoning Chinese automotive sector, and it has established deep connections and a strong presence since China's reform and opening up era.
The foundation is located in China.
However, it also appears to have overlooked the significant development of electric vehicles, EVs, in China.
BMW appears to be progressing more rapidly than them.
Fujian has few electric vehicles and there are none in Hong Kong.
But they do have many car models.
And don't forget, the Volkswagen Group is incredibly huge, encompassing many diverse brands. So your cars can theoretically be sourced from the Volkswagen brand specifically.
Then you are also familiar with luxury brands like Audi, which is quite popular, and you've definitely heard of Porsche as well. What I mean to say is that Audi belongs to them, and additionally Bentley is part of their collection, along with Lamborghini and Ducati as well.
They have a wide variety of different brands in their lineup, but the issue is that even with such a multitude of brands, you can still assemble an impressive star football team that might unexpectedly lose to a local school team, right? It's all about performance, not just reputation. So the current issue is that Germany is facing a particularly tricky and complicated situation that requires careful consideration and strategic planning.
The situation is unique because Germany operates differently compared to other countries. They have substantial direct investment in China, along with intricate supply chains.
These prominent car manufacturers rely heavily on numerous components sourced from China. It's not merely a straightforward process of producing a wholly German vehicle and then marketing it in China. The trade dynamics are far more complex than that. Consequently, they are currently encountering a substantial challenge that could impact their operations and profitability.
So they won't be so free to listen to you about China. About the US. In terms of the US, you impose high tariffs, and I do the same. Honestly, Europe isn't particularly fond of the US either. Absolutely, that's correct. Essentially, everyone shares the same belief system or a generally similar ideology, which we commonly refer to as a collective ideology. But many other aspects and elements are completely different.
So if we put it this way, it's really about protecting their own interests and then suppressing diplomacy.
For the European Union, or in their perspective, China is primarily focused on obtaining inexpensive labor, which can include both child labor and low-cost adult labor, solely to reduce the overall production cost of electric vehicles, particularly when combined with their financial subsidies. Then you can sell them at a low price, such as for 100,000 or perhaps 80,000. Who would buy my BMW or Benz? What they need to do is carefully impose some trade barriers to protect local industries effectively. This situation could potentially impact China significantly in developing and strengthening its non-US trade partner relationships.
Currently, it appears that there are no electric vehicles capable of significantly penetrating the US market effectively.
In China, there's the popular electric vehicle manufacturer Tesla, but it's important to remember that Tesla is actually an American brand, primarily manufactured in the US. Naturally, I'm just joking around. Speaking of Tesla, I received an intriguing message today stating that a certain bank is currently offering a remarkable 0% interest rate if you purchase 3 Teslas.
Did you see this news?
It's not the first day, right?
I believed it was truly very recent news. I don't understand.
Don't wait any longer.
I have nothing. What am I waiting for?
Yes, I'm currently waiting for my ride to arrive soon.
Huh?
Can't you just tow it?
I waited until my car broke down.
See, there's a feeling.
Are you referring to Hong Kong?
Yeah, Hong Kong. Well, it appears that Hong Kong is about to implement some new laws, including changes to various license fees for businesses.
Oh, is that really what you posted on Facebook today?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I don't quite get it. You still don't understand why.
Oh, I don't understand.
Oh, you know that every electric vehicle is required to pay a specific registration fee for proper documentation and compliance. So do you know how much at least an electric car has to pay? It's over 3,000, at least 5,000. 5,000. Now that's the total price we're discussing, right? For a vehicle with a 500cc engine, it's approximately 5,000, okay? For a 2,000cc engine, it should be over 7,000. And if you decide to go for something even larger, it should reach about 3,000 more. For 3,000, it should be around 9,000. Yes. Electric cars, such as Teslas, have a distinctive weight distribution due to their design and components. I mean, Teslas are notably heavy, primarily because of the substantial weight of their large battery packs. Yes. A Tesla vehicle appears to weigh over 2 tons, with approximately 1,000 units produced each year. Oh, with $1,000 a year, your fuel costs are significantly lower since you don't rely on traditional fuel, just electricity.
So you still need to pay the required registration fee, is that correct?
Hey, but I always think about these things. We simply talk about it in this manner like we're doing.
In Hong Kong, the insurance premiums for electric cars can exceed $10,000. Sorry, let me complete this thought before continuing.
Yes, actually you were asking me about the news, right? The government plans to include the mandatory registration fee for electric vehicles, which will ultimately increase the overall cost by approximately 70% for car owners, significantly impacting their financial decisions regarding purchasing. But they will calculate it carefully based on the total power consumption. That's right. Because there's no cylinder capacity, right? So you can only calculate it by horsepower.
When performing calculations using horsepower, the resulting output is directly equivalent to the total amount of horsepower it possesses.
When you calculate power based on horsepower, electric vehicles like Teslas exhibit impressive levels of energy. For instance, a Tesla model boasts an astounding power output equivalent to over 300 horsepower. Yes.
You may need to pay a registration fee amounting to several $1,000s, but rest assured, it will still be more affordable than purchasing a gasoline car with comparable features and specifications.
But if you use a vehicle permit system like in Singapore, you're in big trouble. The average price for a Diga typically ranges from approximately 1.2 to 1.3 million Hong Kong dollars.
I recall you brought that up.
However, I often find myself comparing one specific issue, which is insurance, as the insurance rates for electric cars tend to be significantly higher.
I must clarify that there's a common misunderstanding. Just because it's an electric vehicle doesn't automatically mean that the insurance will be more expensive.
Insurance tends to be more expensive for electric vehicles primarily because the likelihood of accidents is statistically higher. Additionally, the increased insurance premiums can be attributed to the fact that electric vehicles feature greater engine torque, which can lead to faster acceleration and potentially riskier driving conditions. This combination of factors ultimately results in higher costs for insurance coverage for these innovative vehicles. The instantaneous torque and the overall total horsepower output are truly impressive and perform exceptionally well.
So if that's the case, it makes sense. It's akin to comparing a standard SUV, such as an oil-powered vehicle often seen near Taikoo Tower, to a high-performance luxury SUV like the Porsche Macan, which offers superior features and a more thrilling driving experience. If your vehicle's horsepower is indeed doubled, shouldn't it follow logically that your insurance cost would also be doubled as well?
Yes, at the very least, it should actually double in amount.
So this is actually completely related to its horsepower. Isn't the insurance for high-horsepower electric cars expensive?
It doesn't matter, you buy a low-horsepower electric car and its insurance is relatively cheaper. Some Japanese car models are often characterized by low horsepower ratings. Would a small car typically be classified as having low horsepower?
Because I haven't seen the crazy flying models, but I don't really pay much attention. I just drive around because it's convenient now.
In the past, the iconic Mini's design evolved into a more compact and smaller version, attracting a notable number of car enthusiasts who eagerly came in to explore and inquire about pricing. Typically, these eager customers often found themselves getting excellent deals on paint options for their beloved vehicles.
Everyone definitely needs to carefully calculate and inquire about how much the insurance premium will actually cost. Another reason is that in the past, there were actually only Tesla electric cars in Hong Kong. So your insurance provider is just one single company, correct?
So it must be expensive.
There should be more options available now.
If it's more affordable, when you opt for the base model of a Tesla, I believe that in my view, the base model truly doesn't require an extra 10,000.
Yeah, that's right.
If you decide to apply for the no claims bonus, NCB, it's important to remember that even when you submit your application, you still need to complete the renewal process for your insurance policy to ensure continued coverage. Actually, even knowledge doesn't need 10,000.
Yeah.
You could say it's quite expensive, but I think it's reasonable.
So is it cheap or not?
Speaking of driving, everyone might notice that it seems like beef jerky is getting more expensive.
In reality, when compared to the EU and Japan, the prices here are quite affordable, really inexpensive. I recall that I need to head out and do some shooting, right?
In the UK, for instance, if you exceed the speed limit by driving a bit faster, you could face a hefty fine amounting to several £1,000s.
Hey, I heard you didn't seem to find it, got pulled over.
No, we can't find it either because 10% should negotiate with the car rental company.
They ignored your advice?
We've been patiently waiting for the car rental company's letter.
Yes, it's really about filling in the address, but I don't know where.
Later, I asked several individuals who are genuinely British and originally from Hong Kong about the situation. They advised me that it doesn't really matter. I should just handle it when I enter next time. If I don't, I won't be able to receive your len, and I certainly don't want it to turn out that way.
Okay, so it's just that. Everyone can certainly pay attention to this important topic. By the way, we also mentioned this earlier when discussing Chinese cars. And today we have also talked about China's GDP growth in the first quarter of the year.
Actually, it's performing better than anticipated, growing by 5.4% since the initial expectation was approximately 5.2%.
When discussing investment, consumption, and industry, it is noteworthy that all these sectors are currently showing promising signs of recovery. The Statistics Bureau has stated that this trend clearly demonstrates the resilience and strength of the Chinese economy, which in turn is prompting the market to reassess and reevaluate China's overall growth potential moving forward. This renewed focus could have significant implications for both domestic and international investors.
In March, the added value of the industrial sector saw a significant increase of 7.7%.
Additionally, the total gross domestic product, GDP, reached an impressive figure of $31 trillion. What should it be in this context? Which one are you referring to?
I'm talking about this one.
I often find it challenging to express this, but 31,875.8 billion is indeed a significant figure. Yes, that's impressive. The year-on-year increase is 5.4%, exceeding the expected rate of around 5%.
When examining the data by industry sector, the anticipated value added for the primary sector is projected to be approximately 117,000, indicating significant economic contribution. It's approximately $1.1 trillion, which converts to about $171 billion in total. So that's a year-on-year increase of 3.5.
Now, let's take a moment to pause here for clarity. We definitely shouldn't get lost in the details. Remember, the total amount we're discussing today is $31.8 trillion, which is indeed quite a substantial figure. I thought you might find it surprisingly small at first glance, but actually, China is recognized as the second largest economy in the entire world, showcasing its significant growth and influence on global markets. And it continues to experience growth, unlike the US, which is currently the largest economy in the world.
This particular concept of a cabinet is estimated to be around $32 trillion,
highlighting its significant economic impact and the importance of understanding its implications in the broader context of financial discussions and policy making. The primary sector's increase is only 1.1 trillion.
That's approximately 1 out of every 30, which is considered quite small. In contrast, the secondary sector, which encompasses manufacturing and industry, makes up about 1/3 of the economy, totaling around $11 trillion.
The secondary sector, which includes industries such as manufacturing and construction, is roughly 10 times larger in economic output compared to the primary sector, which focuses on the extraction of natural resources like agriculture, mining, and forestry. This significant difference highlights the crucial role the secondary sector plays in economic development and job creation.
When we look at the numbers, it's easier to understand. Now, regarding the unemployment rate,
The Q1 unemployment rate is 5.3. In March, it was actually 5.2, which is slightly higher.
I want to mention that some friends in Shenzhen might be struggling.
They might not have any idea about the exact amount of the salary, and when they arrive, they find themselves completely unaware of what the pay actually is.
The problem is that they said they couldn't hire anyone no matter how hard they tried. Then they might have hired someone and that person was given an offer, but then they said, sorry, I have another job, so I won't come back. So it was on and off, and it might take half to 2 months to finally hire someone. So I said, isn't it hard to find a job in the mainland? I mean, isn't there a high unemployment rate with many people looking for work?
They said no, it's actually quite rare and difficult to find people. It seems like everyone has a job. That's what my friends in the mainland shared with me, so I wanted to tell everyone about it. Yes, but the income has seen a slight increase. A figure of 5.3 million is not considered exaggerated. I believe it appears quite normal. The ratio indicates that Hong Kong stands at around 2.x billion, while 3 represents Central. Hong Kong's population is declining.
Now, the urban unemployment rate is calculated based on whether you worked at least 1 hour during that specific week. Even if you worked for just a single hour, it counts as having been employed.
Part-time work is still considered valid work experience. Secondly, are you looking to find a job opportunity? This is how it's calculated worldwide. The third point is quite tricky and complex, which is the current underemployment rate. If someone has returned to their hometown after seeking work, they are no longer counted officially as unemployed.
Are you asking if they return home to work?
Remember, in China, there is a household registration system. They may not necessarily go back to work, they could return to farm, or they could just be back home using their phones. In fact, a significant number of people in China often return to their hometowns during holidays and spend their days engrossed in looking at their phones, mainly watching Douyin videos, yet they still find themselves with nothing meaningful to do. But this doesn't take into consideration CPR, correct?
Okay, understood.
Yes, that's what he means. In Hong Kong, the figure is around 2 point something, but you really can't compare it directly. The inability to make direct comparisons indicates that 5 point something is likely underestimated. The actual unemployment situation is not this number. It shows. So how exactly should the situation be understood? If you claim there isn't an issue, the current statistics we possess fail to accurately reflect China's unemployment reality. However, before this moment, or even currently, there should still be some young individuals who are still in their double-digit ages, like 10 to 19.
But I remember there was a time when they didn't publish it, right? Yes, because it sounded too scary. Oh, and also because it might be related to the pandemic at that time.
To fully understand the employment situation in various regions, it's essential to consider several factors. A straightforward method to gauge China's employment landscape is to observe how easily one can hail a taxi and the efficiency of fast food delivery services in that area.
Actually, it's quite easy and fast, right?
So why is that?
The job market is extremely weak.
Oh, because everyone has gone to drive and deliver food.
Consider exploring opportunities in locations such as Australia or in economies that are performing better like London, where there is actually a notable challenge in finding delivery jobs due to high demand and competition in the labour market. Or if you try to review them, they won't pay attention to you. Don't worry, they won't shoot you. Yes, in Hong Kong too, it seems these Uber drivers aren't particularly afraid of receiving negative reviews at all.
Oh, that's true. And they will, during the time of my wait, reduce the fare by themselves.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. And there are numerous additional English-speaking friends driving around in bustling Hong Kong.
Oh, yes, absolutely. For food delivery services too.
Food delivery has always been this way. With food delivery services, you typically don't have to engage with the drivers or passengers. Instead, your interactions are mainly with the customers when placing orders. As an Uber driver, you typically need to engage and interact with your passengers during their ride. You really need to ask a couple of key questions like which specific tunnel do you want to take, or just chat a bit. Not really, that's quite rare.
However, if you really think about it, if it continues to grow at a rate of 5.4% each quarter, then yes, that's true. Hey, do you think what he said about the resilience of the Chinese economy is right?
Well, just looking at that number alone may not be accurate, but if you consider 3 other figures, the 3 main drivers, right?
The total retail sales of consumer goods, investment levels, and the industrial added value all indicate a positive upward trend, suggesting overall economic growth. However, I believe that the notable increase in retail sales can primarily be attributed to specific subsidy measures implemented to stimulate consumer spending. These targeted financial incentives have likely played a significant role in boosting sales figures during this period. Some measures to encourage consumption.
This is easy to understand, right? And it makes sense. It surpassed market expectations.
We must watch for a few more quarters to determine if a sustainable positive trend exists.
Because now you can clearly observe that China is actively making some significant moves, engaging in discussions about how to effectively stimulate domestic demand. This initiative is being spearheaded by Premier Li Qiang, who is implementing various measures aimed at encouraging consumer spending and boosting economic growth in the country. These efforts are crucial for revitalizing the economy in the wake of recent challenges.
These measures are specifically aimed at effectively reviving and boosting domestic consumption. However, the problem is, to be completely honest, can relying solely on selling domestic products to domestic consumers truly sustain long-term economic growth? That's a significant question mark. But there will undoubtedly be established assessment standards to evaluate the effectiveness of such a strategy moving forward. Industrial added value increases significantly above a certain scale. This figure saw a significant increase in March with a year-on-year growth of 7.7%, while the market only expected 5.8%.
Could this situation be classified as a trade war? Because the trade war has already been said to involve high tariffs, right? Increasing tariffs, could it be driven by some urgent orders? This is worth watching.
Alright, so we need to pay attention to what trends, specifically the trend of the PPI, to see if there will be a sustained improvement, at least a reduction in the negative range.
Will there be a continuous situation like this ongoing for a long time? However, it seems that reversing it is not as easy as we might hope.
However, if you suggest that this sharp increase may be due to urgent orders, it has indeed risen to 5.7%, or could it be as high as 7.7%? If you manage to reach April, then the numbers might look promising and won't necessarily drop sharply right away. You should monitor it for a few more months.
Always analyze economic data trends over time rather than relying on just 1 month's figures.
Because unexpected news can arrive at any moment.
There could also be some unforeseen circumstances or unexpected developments that might reverse current trends, but in general, changing the momentum is quite challenging. Additionally, we can examine another country for comparison, specifically the United States, along with Nigeria, which adds an interesting perspective, haha.
Recently, it seems that everyone has been discussing this topic, and just today I came across the news where nearly every news outlet reported that the United States government is imposing restrictions on the export of H20 chips manufactured by NVIDIA to China. This measure is projected to incur significant costs, amounting to approximately $5.5 billion USD.
This is primarily because in order to export this advanced chip technology to China or certain other countries, they must first obtain explicit permission from the US authorities. Consequently, everyone in the industry is closely monitoring NVIDIA's actions. In fact, I recall we discussed this topic in detail during our last episode. In the recent episodes, we discussed NVIDIA's stock, which is now at 106 in pre-market.
It appears that NVIDIA experienced a modest increase in its stock price yesterday. However, let me verify the details once more. After the market closed, NVIDIA's stock actually declined by 6%, ending the day at 112. Given the fluctuations in after-hours trading due to the recent news that emerged, what are your thoughts on this situation? It's quite exaggerated, resulting in a type of exaggeration that distorts reality and affects perception significantly. The substantial drop of 5.5 billion is primarily due to ongoing issues and challenges related to exports specifically to China.
This news isn't particularly surprising. After all, this situation pertains to company matters, so unfortunately, we don't have a grant to question or seek clarification on these decisions. But how do you truly see it? At least you should consider it from my perspective, especially since I hold shares in NVIDIA, which adds to my interest in this discussion. Well, since my average cost is quite low, I really won't be concerned about it at all.
I genuinely believe that this certification strongly validates your expertise, and for the time being, no one can match your level.
You're talking about the company, and now the US government says that NVIDIA's chips can be used for military computers, specifically military supercomputers, so they need to implement export controls. So you're saying their products are related to military weapons, like nuclear arms?
But actually, it's because of this statement that I'm concerned.
Although they say that their overall business growth might experience a slowdown due to this significant financial commitment, as they have to invest a substantial 5.5 billion, which could potentially affect other investments in their portfolio, it is important to note that, as you mentioned, their advanced technology is already applicable to military supercomputers, which could lead to further opportunities in that sector. This strategic move could ultimately balance out any temporary setbacks in growth.
In essence, they continue to overwhelmingly dominate the market and are undoubtedly recognized as the industry leaders. If that's indeed the case, and you notice such concerning trends, you might consider taking advantage of any bad news to potentially lower the stock price, allowing everyone to continue investing and purchasing more shares at a better rate.
Now that we are in April, if you hold your investment until the end of the year, I believe the likelihood of achieving a good return is quite high.
Let's examine NVIDIA's performance today first, as I recall that in the past they faced certain restrictions on exports to China which significantly impacted their operations. Despite those challenges and a rough patch in their growth trajectory, the company still managed to recover quite impressively.
But I can't quite recall when that was last year. Let's go ahead and check the chart for confirmation.
This is the situation these days.
So you just need to wait for him to go down and then you'll know when.
No, actually, he's still at 90, just like the last time when it bounced back up to that level.
Hey, by the way, just a friendly reminder. Don't ask me when to buy. You can actually make your purchase before it starts. You can buy at 9 p.m. tonight after 9:30 p.m. Hong Kong time.
You can purchase shares now in the pre-market and the current price is at 106. Additionally, regarding BA, which stands for Boeing, I recall that in our last episode, another viewer suggested buying Boeing stock.
Why is that?
I believe that the entire global market is eagerly seeking to purchase planes from that specific company. Personally, I am unable to acquire the A1 bus. I am not entirely sure why, but it seems that the A1 bus currently has no available delivery options, correct? However, when it comes to China, there are discussions about the situation, and they mentioned that in the United States, the sanctions imposed are quite severe and have significant implications.
They aim to retaliate by imposing tariffs, urging domestic airlines to halt their purchases of American-made airplanes in response to recent trade tensions.
And related parts of the aviation supply chain, so the market anticipates this situation will significantly impact Boeing as they are scheduled to deliver 10 aircraft to China in the near future. This expected delivery is crucial for both Boeing's financial performance and its relationship with the Chinese market, which is vital for future orders.
The U.S. side has expressed their concerns by stating that they criticize China for repeatedly and consistently violating their established commitments over time.
Do you believe that this particular situation will have a significant and lasting impact on Boeing's operations and overall business performance?
Of course it certainly will, because if you don't receive the planes as expected, you won't be able to collect payments, right? Yes, not being able to collect payments affects cash flow.
Haha, yes. And then they also mentioned that during the first term of the negotiations, China successfully reached a significant trade agreement discussing the dollar shop's implications and highlighting how American farmers are required to contribute back approximately 200 billion Hong Kong dollars to the economy. This situation reflects the complexities and interdependencies in international trade relations between the two countries.
Then China should take action. You can't be both Chinese and not do anything.
So I believe that if I decide to challenge your tariffs, I certainly have valid reasons and justifications for doing so. They also expressed concern that China urged Korean companies to cease taking delivery of their Boeing airplanes.
Actually, hey, it is like this. What are your thoughts on it? You cannot simply place an order and then later refuse to accept the goods. That constitutes a clear breach of contract. However, now they are asserting that breaching the contract is somehow acceptable under certain circumstances. But can you truly justify breaching it? It's not just a matter of words. You can't arbitrarily declare that China will take action without a valid reason. What do you even call such an approach? It raises significant questions about accountability and obligation in contractual agreements.
The C-99 is currently a narrow-body aircraft.
No, there isn't a wide-body aircraft yet.
You lack FAA certification, so flying to North America isn't possible.
So that might not work.
Yeah, you're great. Just go to Hong Kong. Do your companies truly need to operate their own planes?
You need one.
Yes.
Actually, if you genuinely oppose the two major airlines in the world, that implies you wouldn't find it necessary to operate your own airline at all. It suggests a firm stance against their dominance in the industry, leading to the conclusion that your operations wouldn't be essential.
You wouldn't need to fly any international routes?
Exactly.
However, speaking of Boeing, I find it quite strange that recently a growing number of people seem to prefer flying on Boeing planes compared to other manufacturers. Is it because they have heard some positive news or reviews about the airline's safety and innovation? Or could it be that many passengers simply prefer the comfort and experience offered by the Dreamliner over the Airbus A330? It's intriguing to consider what influences their choices in air travel.
I haven't heard about that development or anything related to the A380. Perhaps it's due to the fact that they are larger and more modern aircraft, and the Dreamliner is particularly remarkable. After all, the largest commercial plane in the world historically was the iconic 747, correct?
Then the other competing company developed the A380, which is significantly larger than it. Boeing is currently in the process of developing an even larger aircraft. However, they unexpectedly decided to halt this initiative. The decision came after realizing that in terms of operational efficiency, constructing a bigger plane does not make practical sense. Consequently, they shifted their focus to the 770, which is known as the G-Man-R.
But now the Jimana is a big buy, and if you have a larger plane, the fuel consumption and everything else increases. I haven't really heard much about that topic lately.
Is that so?
I don't know why it is, but the special feature is that if you sit by the window, there's no annoying panel that comes down at all. If it becomes dark later in the evening, the panel will not drop. Instead, the glass will gradually turn dark.
It's the remarkable Gymnina, specifically the Gymnina 770.
Oh, really?
Huh, no, I really haven't seen it.
I can check on YouTube, but it seems like you wouldn't care about the model of the plane when you go to Japan. What?
I recently flew with Cathay Pacific. What unique aircraft do they operate?
Honestly, jumbo liners are quite impressive, but they are just ordinary commercial planes at the end of the day. So, in my opinion, the A330 really isn't anything special. It's so commonplace that you wouldn't even notice the brand when you see it flying overhead.
In fact, it's important that you pay close attention to the seating arrangement because you really need to check the seat map first, don't you? It is quite uncommon for people to focus on the seat map before making their selections.
The seat map clearly displays the specific model of the airplane. If I need to focus on the model, it is especially important when I take my children on a flight, as I need to check the seat width and understand how far we will have to walk to reach our designated seats.
Oh, what do you mean?
It doesn't really concern my business.
Actually, I don't need to choose my seat. I just let you know. Oh no, it definitely does matter because some planes only have 3 seats available in the first row. Some planes have 4 seats, so if there are 4 seats, we can all sit together.
Oh, right, I just mean...
But if you can't choose, then it's just 4 seats.
Hey, if there are 4 available seats, I can select a specific row in advance. If there are children traveling with us, I can make a reservation early to accommodate them.
Oh, just sit down comfortably and walk around casually like this. I often find myself feeling conflicted about the reasons I discuss the act of walking. Can we really engage in walking as a meaningful activity? Is it really 10 o'clock or perhaps just a bit past 10? It ultimately revolves around respecting the personal space of those individuals in front of us.
Actually, it seems we can't walk. No, we can walk. Hey, you might be fast asleep right now, but it seems that no one is currently walking past us to head to the restroom. I notice people walking by fairly often, but I tend to do it less frequently. I recall the flight attendant once mentioned this to me because I had been sitting in a specific row during a previous flight. I purchased a couple of inflatable footrests designed specifically for my kids to comfortably sleep during our long car trips.
Oh, she said with a thoughtful expression. You know, one eye open, one eye closed, and suggested I might want to adjust it slightly, leaving a small gap.
It's also quite frustrating that we're not allowed to place bags down freely. Yes, I understand I can put it under the seat in front of me.
You can only place it in front on the plane.
So I want to say perhaps the flight attendant truly had one eye open and the other closed, a bit like being half asleep. I did have some space to stretch, but she instructed me to leave a little room for other passengers.
That's exactly it. Simply broadcasting the message is really all that matters. Now let's take a moment to discuss gold prices, shall we?
That's great news because gold prices have been steadily increasing without interruption.
Now it's hovering around $3,300, inching closer to the $4,000 mark. Is that really all there is to it? Are we finished here? When I see that $4,000 figure, it feels like we're done. However, when we kicked off the first season, I had already mentioned that I hadn't fully anticipated this situation unfolding as it has.
I regret a bit because you kept talking and you didn't listen to me. No, I really regret it. At that time, my insurance broker, because I always bought some funds. I always told you not to trust insurance funds. No, I bet on myself, and he asked me why I didn't buy gold but bought Indian funds.
Are you trading funds? Hey, are you playing around? What? Are you trading funds?
Trading? Well, you mean trading gold, right?
It really is gold, shiny gold, yes, but we might be talking about ETFs. Not the safer funds, right?
Safer funds won't follow the gold price, right?
Yes, but there are some issues because you need to share a portion. They need to share a portion. So how can you benefit from the rise? Just relying on the rise won't work. Funds need some cash flow to cover their related costs, and those costs are quite high.
But if you're looking at it reaching 4,000, then what happens next? Actually, it's not just that. I mean, if it reaches 4,000, it could go to 5,000, then 6,000, then 7,000. That's the reality.
I've always said that your female tenants must have gold, but don't let the gold exceed 20% because the reason is they lack cash flow. The investment portfolio must have cash flow, yes.
So you want to earn interest, right?
So buying something that has no dividends or cash flow, only asset appreciation like gold. The reason for concern is that the world is truly chaotic. No country is worthy of universal trust from global investors. The US has become a major common factor, and people are starting to waver, feeling that the risks in the US are increasing, or that global risks stem from the US. So people will hold on to some traditional assets that everyone trusts, and a highly liquid asset is gold.
Gold. Yes.
Therefore, I'm not too worried about some cryptocurrencies, especially larger ones like BTC.
Why is that?
Well, it's gradually becoming equivalent to gold.
Also, BTC has another advantage. It's easier to carry when you need to flee. Just take it with your device, but you need to remember the password and you can protect your assets.
Yes, when you enter, you really can't hear anything, and if someone tells you you might actually be confiscated, many countries are like that, yes, because I've seen some people, if they need to immigrate or flee, they simply melt down some gold and take the cash. Then they might use that money to buy corresponding gold locally, meaning they can use their old money without needing it. You can buy 2,400, but some people don't know.
Okay, so those who are listening understand, right? You can buy it through our securities account, but remember to sign the declaration for our structured products. Well, actually, it's not a structured product. It's an ETF. When you buy 1 unit of the ETF, the issuer will immediately buy the corresponding gold in the market and put it in their vault.
By the way, I want to remind everyone that Edwin's app can now trade Japanese and Singaporean stocks. So if anyone is interested in trading more markets, you can download our app and invest more.
Oh, my colleagues were just discussing not about Japanese stocks, but they were talking about gaming stocks. Why is that?
Oh, speaking of gaming stocks, isn't the Switch 2 already available? It's hard to get it in the US, right? I heard my partner say that when the Switch 2 launched, there were still people buying it at midnight. Isn't that crazy?
No. I mean, does that mean a lot of people are buying it?
The Switch 2 seems to have taken a while to release the second version.
Oh, fans will definitely be interested in buying it.
Yes, but I'm not really a fan, you know. You're talking about trusting me, but I'm not really a fan of Nintendo.
Oh, right. Okay, so everyone, what am I?
I'm from Kowloon.
Oh, right. Aren't you from the New Territories?
Yes, we still need to lower it a bit more. If anyone is interested, you can download our app to make more investments. We'll meet again at the same time next Wednesday to discuss more.